Welcome to Black Girl Missing, a podcast that covers stories of Black girls who were reported missing when they were under the age of 18. We are exercising caution and social distancing by recording for you from our homes in DC, Philly, and the Jersey Shore. And this podcast is brought to you by Full Service Radio. Due to the sensitive and sometimes graphic nature of these cases, we advise listeners to use caution when listening. Black Girl Missing is supported in part by New Voices for Reproductive Justice. New Voices for Reproductive Justice is a social change organization dedicated to the health and well being of Black women, femmes, and girls. I am your co host, Nikki.
I'm Feminista Jones.
And I'm Asa. Uh,
How y'all doing?
Tired?
Yeah,
That
yeah, I feel it.
I'm just heavy sigh.
Yeah, heavy ties. It.
did.
We want to let everyone know that this is a re-recording of an original episode. After we posted the episode, we found out some information that we thought was really important related to this case. So we're actually re-recording it this time because we believe in integrity and we believe in getting as much information as possible. So we hope that you enjoy this episode nonetheless. All right.
Okay. We open each show reviewing cases of girls who are currently missing that we call the Aisha Alert. We encourage you to pay close attention, check our social media, and help us help the families who are still seeking answers and long for their loved ones' safe return. We'd like to note that we create these lists of currently missing Black girls in real time, so by the time the podcast episodes are released, there may have been changes. We will have information on each case posted on our social media channels so that you can stay updated. Since this is a re recording, we will be doing updates on the three girls that we had in the previous episode. The first girl is Heaven Haygood. She is 14 years old from Richland County, South Carolina, and she has been found and returned home safely. The second girl is 7S Holiday. She's 15 years old from Columbia, Missouri, and she has also been found and returned home safely. The third girl is Tyshira Mackey. She is a 14-year-old girl from the Bronx, New York. Tyshira was last seen leaving her home at about 2 p.m. on Monday, May 4th. Sources close to the investigation believe that she ran away and has a long history of leaving home. She's described as black, standing at approximately 5 foot 4 inches tall, and weighing 140 pounds, with brown eyes and black hair. Mackey was last seen wearing a gray sweatshirt, sweatpants, and black sandals. Police reports indicate anyone with information in regard to this missing girl is asked to call the NYPD's Crime Stoppers hotline at 1-800 577 TIPS.
All right. So we are going to dig into the case of Arianna Fitz this week. And this case is one of the most bizarre missing cases I think we've done so far. It just really kind of blew my mind when I read it, and as we were looking into it, it just doesn't make any sense. But let's get into it. Um, on April 5th, 2016, 32-year-old Nicole Fitz and her 2-year-old daughter Arianna were reported missing. 3 days later, Nicole's body was found in a shallow 3 foot by 2 foot grave in McLaren Park in San Francisco. Her grave was covered with plywood that had a strange symbol on it. Nicole's body had been manipulated to fit into the grave, according to the police. Ariana was nowhere to be found. She's been missing ever since. The FBI does not think she was with her mother at the time her mother was killed. Ariana is described as being a 2 foot tall. At being 2 foot tall at the time of her disappearance and weighing about 45 pounds. She has black hair and brown eyes, and when you look at her pictures, you see one of the cutest little button noses and bright smiles. She has a larger forehead, and I mention this because it's a very descriptive feature. She also has curlier hair, a looser curl pattern than the average little black girl. I have a large head, so I get it. In all of her pictures, she looks well dressed and groomed, and it looks like she was well taken care of. Her hair is done. She's got a winter coat on in one picture. And these are the details that let me know that she likely was not being neglected, and that's going to matter later on in the story. So, the last time that Nicole was seen alive was April 1st. She was working her shift at Best Buy on Harrison Street in San Francisco. According to the Charlie Project, later in the day, she exchanged text messages with relatives saying that she was going to Fresno, California with a friend named Sam. Her family was puzzled by this because to their knowledge, Nicole didn't know anyone named Sam, and she didn't even have a car. Then, early in the morning on April 2nd, there was a post to Nicole's Facebook reading, "Spending time with my 3-year-old, need this break." And her family doesn't think she wrote it because one, Ariana was 2, not 3, and then Nicole wrote with good grammar and spelling. So the post said Brake, not Break. So the family knew something was off. This was the last communication anyone heard from quote unquote her or whoever who might have been posting on her behalf. And this made me think of all those memes asking, like, what would you post to let people know that you're in danger? I know for me, I would post, "I hate Prince's music," or something like that. If I posted that, Nikki and Asa would be like, holy hell, someone's got her.
Something's wrong. Yeah.
Yep.
Something is wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and that doesn't make any sense. So I'm wondering if she posted this as a sign that she was in trouble. And we don't know if she posted her location on the post, but it stood out to the family enough that they got really concerned. They reported her missing on April 5th, having not heard anything else from her. When they made the report, they also noted that they didn't know where Ariana was either. So the last time that Ariana was seen by anyone in Nicole's family was actually February of 2016. So like a couple of months or maybe a month or so ahead of that. She was actually known to have been with her babysitters, a couple named Helena Hearn Martin and Devin Martin. Since then, Helena's sister, Ciolo, also shared responsibilities for Ariana. Now, reportedly, the couple and sister lived in Oakland and cared for Ariana for extended periods of time while Nicole worked. And I think this is an interesting aspect of the story because Black parents, especially, single moms, often rely on community support in caring for their children. It
Right.
takes a village to raise a child. However, the Martins would go on to be seen as suspects later during the investigation, which we will also get into later. I want us to dig a bit into Nicole's story and get a better idea of what led to her disappearance. So, we know that Nicole was a struggling single mom, and Ariana wasn't her only child. She had an older child named Cindy, who she sent to live with her father in Southern California after she got pregnant and began to have financial hardships. So, Nicole and her two sisters were also split up when their mom died in their teen years, but they did stay close. Nicole even lived with a sister, Tess, which is short for Contessa, for a while in 2012 with her oldest daughter, Cindy. They hit a rough patch, and Tess and her girlfriend actually moved to Santa Cruz while Nicole opted to go into a women's shelter so she could stay near San Francisco. This is also the time when she sent her daughter to stay with her dad. So, reportedly, Nicole lived in homeless shelters for a period of time. Her sending her daughter to live with the dad as opposed to keeping her again tells me that she had her children's best interests at heart. That's a hard thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, you really got to think about that and give her some props for that.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But while she was in one shelter, though, in 2015, she linked up with a woman named Lemisani Briggs, who's a so called street pastor.
Here we
Um, from,
go.
from what we've learned, she's a bit of a hustler. And you know those types. They kind of stand on the corner, they shout Bible verses, they have street corner sermons. And I imagine that she made regular stops at homeless shelters and trying to spread the good news. Um,
Mm-hmm.
she struck a bond with Ariana and eventually invited her to come stay with her. But she invited Nicole and Ariana to come stay with her, and Nicole agreed. She paid sorry, Nicole ended up paying her money for both rent and babysitting. And I guess she didn't feel too comfortable after a while because she ended up switching babysitters and began instead relying on Ciolo Hearn, who happened to be Lemisani Briggs's niece. Now, we heard that name earlier because she's also the sister of Helena Martin. So, this is how Nicole gets connected to this whole family.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, and this
Mm.
may be a premature assumption, but I wonder if if Lemisani Briggs, if they saw that Nicole was a mark.
Hmm.
Mm.
Hmm. Mhm.
That's
Because
a
if
good
you're one
point.
of those street pastor types, like um FJ and I have both
Mhm.
worked in shelter systems, and
Mhm.
there's always these characters who don't
Mhm.
stay at the shelter, but you
Mhm.
always see them
They
around.
always there.
Mhm.
They're
You
always
think that they
around,
getting their services there, but they're not.
They're
right?
not.
And you look at them
Yeah.
and go, "Do they live here?"
Do they live
And then
here?
when you leave work, you know that they don't because they're down the street somewhere, and it's past the time that the folks got to be in the building.
You know, I
Mhm.
know.
So,
I've already got somebody in my head that I remember from one of my jobs. It's just like that.
so
You
you
exactly describe it.
so you have these people who they might either be on the street, or they are, oh well, I run a nonprofit. No, you don't. No,
Mhm.
you don't. You just kind of hanging out, seeing what you can see. They might be pimps, they might be dealers, they might be all kinds of sorts of people. So I wonder now at this
Mm-hmm.
point, was she a mark? Did they see her and say, oh, I know this lady, I babysit for her sometimes. She'd be down at
Mm-hmm.
that shelter. And then
Mhm.
here comes Aunt Lay Masani saying,
Mm-hmm.
let me, what does she look like? I'm going to introduce myself to her.
Right.
Interesting.
And
Interesting.
there's a question because I don't think there was any clarity on why she switched babysitters, and that's something I would like to know. Like, what got her her to see like there was red flags where she needed to switch babysitters.
Well, I mean, she said she was becoming uncomfortable, and her
Mhm.
sister later said, Tess later said that Nicole, the woman was abusive towards Nicole, and
Mhm.
like Nicole showed her some of the texts, and they were like angry,
That
insulting
that
text
will do it.
messages. And then
Hmm.
we also know she wouldn't give her a key to their shared residence. Now, if I'm paying rent somewhere and I'm here with my child, I want a key.
Right.
I need to have a
Yeah.
key. That's a safety issue.
Mhm.
Yeah, like so when you withholding the key and somebody's paying rent, that's financial abuse, right?
Mhm.
Right.
And then we find out that she would read her diary and looking for whatever business she didn't have a right to, right? And
Mhm.
they were talking about how like maybe she was jealous if she was writing about dates that she was going on and this woman was jealous or whatever. And at some point she raised her babysitting fees and the rent, and
Oh.
so Nicole felt she was being taken advantage of.
Mhm.
So again, she's close with her sister, so Tess and her girlfriend, they came up November 2015, about 6 months before she ended up going missing, and they helped her and Ariana pack up and leave. And they both ended up going to stay in Santa Cruz.
Mm.
Now, here's where it gets kind of weird. Nicole would commute 2 hours a day to go to her job at Best Buy. She would actually take public transportation. I'm not sure why she didn't try to get a transfer or find another job, but maybe she did. We just don't know.
Mhm.
But we do know she had been working at that Best Buy for about a year. So maybe she was just really comfortable with the environment. She kept working though, and because she spent so much time away, she would leave Ariana in Ciolo's care and sometimes with Helena at her home, which is where she lived with her husband. So now we have at least three people who are in regular contact with Ariana leading up to Nicole's murder and Ariana's disappearance.
And
And I'm
they're
kind
all
of
related.
they're all
Oh,
related.
really?
They're all family, whether
Mhm.
by marriage or blood, they're all family. And this is where I get stuck. Because for me, I just kind of like, why would you leave your daughter with people so closely connected to a woman who was being abusive towards you and treating you like that, unless she felt like she had no other options?
Mhm.
But the thing that I raised my eyebrow about that is because, for everything that we're reading, she was close with her sister. And like I said, her sister came and got her. So, there has to be something there. Like, I just
Mhm.
don't understand why she had them taking care of her daughter. Maybe her sister couldn't do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, but she did tell her sister Tess that Helena and Ciolo claimed they were not on good terms with Lemasani, so she wasn't really worried about Lemasani coming around. But again, Tess said that Nicole was getting messages from her talking about bring my baby back here. So that I don't
That
know.
is scary.
That is very scary. There's entitlement. There's some kind
There's
of weird
something there.
connection there. Like
You
I
know,
don't
but
know.
this situation with Lemisani and Nicole um reminds me of like abusive romantic relationships where they try
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
isolate you, or try to they want to get you kind of in a box where it's just you and them, and they isolate you from people who care about you. So it
Mhm.
makes
Yeah.
me wonder if there was kind of a rift sort of growing between Nicole and her family because Lay Masani was making it that way. And by
Mm.
Lay Masani being an older woman, that is very much, you have that kind of mother figure situation happening. Nicole doesn't have a mom, her mom is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And you have this older lady who is very commandeering.
That
Yeah.
reminds me of the Relia Wilson when we were talking about Relia Wilson and that
Mm-hmm.
the women that was there. There was this older woman
Mm-hmm.
that they were like, well, are they domestic partners? Are they lesbians? Like
Mm-hmm.
what
Right.
and was
Right.
kind of very domineering and
Mm-hmm.
controlling and kind of manipulative. So
Mm.
that made me think of that as well.
And along the
Um,
front of like abusive relationships, using children as bargaining chips. We
yeah.
don't know what she may have, like, maybe Ariana's being babysat by her nieces was something she orchestrated because she quote unquote had something on Nicole.
Hmm. Interesting. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Um, well, we know that Nicole eventually did have the opportunity to move closer to work because one of her coworkers offered her and Ariana a place to stay. And I want to pause here again and say that Nicole had to have been a good person because people seem to be going out of their way to help her and her daughter. And you know how some people just have bad energy and nobody wants to help them do anything and
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to be bothered. But
Right.
she didn't seem like that type from what we know about her.
Yeah.
People knew that she was struggling and they wanted to help her out. I watched a video of her coworkers reacting to her murder and they were in tears and really struggling to hold it together. And she was close to them and they really cared about her. One of her coworkers, Nia, described her as energetic and bubbly and said her daughters were everything she worked for. And we also know that she won a volunteer award as a teen from the city of Los Angeles and that she was excellent in school. She said her sister said they would tease her for being a teacher's pet, and she said, she looked out for people around and did her best to make sure no one went without, and she was very sensitive. So Nicole ended up moving in with a coworker, Goyette Williams. But according to this new roommate, when she tried to bring Ariana, the babysitters, and we're assuming that's Ciolo, Helena, and or David, did not want Ariana to go. Now I don't get how that works.
Nor do
But
I.
okay.
How do you
Um
make that type of decision for somebody else's child?
I
Right.
don't even know, but they would not let her see her own child. Now, I don't know because toddlers, have you ever been around them? They're a whole handful. And I
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
know that there are a lot of babysitters that are more than happy to give them back to their parents when they come to pick them up. They'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
here, it's 4:59 and 37 seconds. Your mom will be here in 23 seconds. Let's go. Um, but according to these people, according to this roommate, they were basically holding Ariana hostage. And so there was a time, like in the middle of March, Nicole reached out and said, I'm coming to get my daughter. And they said they'd taken her to Disneyland. No, right. Okay. Taking
On
a
whose
2-year-old
dime?
to Disneyland.
That's not really a place that you take a 2-year-old.
Why are you
Right.
taking a 2-year-old to
There's
Disneyland?
like three things for 2-year-olds to do at Disneyland.
Unless
Yeah.
you're intentionally planning on leaving them in It's a Small World and making a dash for it. There's no reason to take
Yeah,
a
no.
baby that's small to It's a Small World. All I know is that they did have other kids there, I think. And so maybe it was a group trip or whatever. But Nicole was upset because nobody gave her a heads up or sought permission. It can also be
Mhm.
dangerous. How many times we got
Right.
to see around, all these roller coasters and, horses gone wild, whatever.
Mhm.
So at the same time, Nicole was being pulled a lot of different ways. She was fighting for custody of her older daughter, Cindy, who we remember had gone to live with her dad. But then we found out that she'd also been removed from her dad's house from Child Protective Services. And I know that had to be hard for Nicole because she was trusting the father to pick up the slack. And then her daughter ends up being removed. So while she wasn't working, according to those that knew her, she was going to Los Angeles for court cases, trying to win her daughter back. So, according to some reports from coworkers and family, the day she went missing, April 1st, was a regular day. She went to work and made plans with Tessa's girlfriend, who happened to be in San Francisco interviewing for a job. She canceled the plans, so Nicole went out with one of her coworkers instead. They went to the mall and did some shopping. Nicole stopped to get a pizza to take back home to Goyette, her roommate. When they stopped, she went to the ATM and took out $600, but did not tell their coworker what it was for. She went home and she and Goyette began watching a movie as they ate pizza. She got a call and told Goyette that she would be back and that she was meeting someone, a babysitter, possibly Helena, at a local restaurant. Goyette said it was like she was being lured out somewhere. Nicole never returned home. Goyette said she got an odd text about her meeting someone named Sam and going to Fresno, but Goyette had never heard about anybody named Sam before. Then, early in the morning on April 2nd, at 1:13 a.m., there was a post on Nicole's Facebook reading, "Spending time with my 3-year-old, need this break." And we talked about that earlier. Um, there was the last communication, and we just they were really confused. The family was really confused. Like, why would this be posted? Goyette said that she remembered how Nicole wanted to go get her daughter, and she advised her to contact the police because something wasn't right about the situation. When Nicole's body was found, it was because a gardener had been doing an early shift and found a large piece of plywood. And there's a picture, I think you all can see it right there. It's got
Hmm.
some weird, it looks like it's small, but it's actually pretty large. Because in one of the videos, a female officer is standing next to it. And it's almost as big as she is.
Yeah.
It's got a weird symbol on it. It's like this silver symbol. I can't make it out. I don't recognize it. But the irony of this, and this is the part that really was like really sad, was that the park had undergone $200,000 in renovations after several dead bodies had turned up on the grounds over the years.
It's ridiculous.
Hmm.
Like, this is a park where people go to dump bodies. It's like Staten Island. It's weird.
It's a
Good day.
really big park. If you look on a
Yeah.
map, this park is huge.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it's weird. So, they had to manipulate her body to put it in there, right? You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It was only 2 foot by 3 foot, and they put this slab over it with this weird symbol. So the police stated that Hearn and the Martins were refusing to cooperate with the investigation, and they provided inconsistent statements, which is why they became unofficial suspects. They were never charged with anything, but they did eventually get an attorney who said
Mm.
that Helena had been cooperating with the police and told them everything she knew. But when she realized she was being treated as a suspect, she sought legal counsel and stopped talking to them. It had also been reported that Helena previously served a 6-year prison term for killing the father of her child.
But
I'm going to run that back.
Hmm.
Helena went to jail for 6 years for killing the father of her child.
I
Well,
Yeah.
extenuating
Mm.
circumstances, because she only got 6 years
We
from.
we don't know if it was a plea deal. We don't know if it was involuntary manslaughter. We don't know what it was.
that's a lot.
But
Yeah.
6 years, yeah.
Uh,
And I'm
But
not
and
sure
that
I would want a woman like that around my child.
I'm
that
not sure at all.
a
So maybe
yeah,
Nicole didn't know.
I could absolutely see that.
I'm gonna
I think
assume
it's
she didn't.
possible that she did
Yeah,
not
I could absolutely see not knowing.
That's not something you tell people. Like,
And
hey,
it's
know.
just
Yeah.
so
not
you
some
know,
yeah,
buddy.
and it's not something you assume. Like you're interviewing babysitters. Like, well, have you served any time in prison? I don't.
I would ask that.
Not everybody thinks like you, Michelle.
But
But not everybody's thinking like you.
it's okay because I actually look to kind of support people that have been incarcerated and things like that. So
Hmm.
Hmm.
for me it's kind of like affirmative action in some ways, and I just for disclosure, because I also want to know, did you go to jail for hurting children? Like,
Yeah.
that's important to me. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? You popped off a liquor store, okay, I get it. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? You was a knucklehead, you was trying to get your little taste on, I get it. But if you hurt children, I don't want you around mine.
But
Right.
also by Nicole being already part of a vulnerable population, she's experiencing home insecurity. She's poor because Best Buy does not pay that much. I used to
Hmm.
work there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she doesn't have a car. She, doesn't have a strong safety net when it comes to family. She's got one, but it's a little flimsy.
Hmm.
Um, you can't she's in a position where you cannot jeopardize your child's safety in any way by the people that you have them around.
Hmm.
Right.
she would have no recourse to have her child around somebody who's not safe.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And
And
it's
you end up
like,
being held accountable for that.
Hmm.
right. And so
Mhm.
she just was really in a terrible, awful,
Mhm.
awful spot.
Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
And like just thinking
Um.
of all the things she had weighing on her, like as far as
Yeah.
commuting 2 hours to work at Best Buy and Best Buy not paying, and then the housing situation. Even when you're trying to do your due diligence, stuff falls through the cracks. Like you're not always thinking of every what if scenario when you're
Yeah.
living in the what if scenario.
No, that
I
makes a
also
lot of sense.
I also thought about, so we've talked about why she may not have sought out better employment or closer employment.
Hmm.
One thing that I do remember about working at Best Buy is they promote from within.
Hmm.
They have a lot of programs for like management, supervisory positions, things like that. If she's experiencing all this hardship, that seems like a good long-term plan.
Yes.
Store managers are hired from within and they make pretty good money.
Mhm.
They're not pressured, they don't make commission, so they're not pressured to sell.
Hmm.
It's just you come to work every day and just do your job real well, and you do your little online trainings and stuff like that, and you can move up. That sounds like a solid plan for somebody who doesn't have much of a foundation at all.
Hmm.
Right. Right.
So I'm like, just going over this story, I kept trying to think of different reasons why she made some of the decisions that she did. And I guess at the very end of all of it, you just got to do the best you can.
You do the best you can with what you got. That's it.
Yep.
Um, you know, this whole time, her sister Tess has believed that these people have something to do with it. And that maybe somebody took Ariana because they wanted her for their own. And when the reporters tried to talk to Helena, neighbors said she and her children were long gone. Okay.
Hmm.
So after when Ariana and Nicole were missing, there were awards and offered for any information leading to them, to the direct locating of Ariana or any information, specifically about Nicole. The Fitz family offered $10,000 for information. Now, that's a lot.
Ooh.
That ain't no little chump change.
Hmm.
They had a little something, something there.
Mhm.
And when she worked at Best Buy, they also offered a 10,000 reward, and this was back in 2016. Now, 4 years later, for some reason, the San Francisco Police Department is offering 10 times that, $100,000. And it made me raise an eyebrow because it is 4 years later and they weren't offering this much before. So it's making me wonder what has transpired over the last 4 years for them to up the ante and invest this kind of money into finding this little girl, especially since it's already been classified as a cold case. So, one of the things that happened, we do know that there were a lot of protests around officer involved shootings, and the police chief was being pressured to resign. The attention shifted from Nicole and Ariana into more of the Black Lives Matter protests and demonstrations. So that's why her story got a bit lost. But, you know, this girl is probably still alive.
Hmm.
There's no reason to believe that Ariana Fitz is not alive. Like it really looks like these people, whether it's Helena and her husband, whether it's Ciolo and Helena or whatever, they took that girl and they left and probably changed her name, are low key somewhere. And that's why we post the pictures of people and these girls in case you see them, right? Whenever we have age progression, we try to show that if it's a long, long case from long ago. If you do have any information at all about Ariana's whereabouts, please contact the San Francisco Police Department at 415-553-0123 or the Federal Bureau of Investigation at 415-553-7400. This story is it blows my mind. Like, how do
Yeah.
you just take somebody? And then this whole idea that this woman, Helena, for whatever reason, she actually killed somebody. So she has the capacity to kill someone.
Yeah.
And this makeshift grave in this, shallow makeshift grave, her body was dumped. She wasn't even like really buried. And somebody put a piece of wood over her. Like, it seemed like maybe they were in a rush. Like,
Or just didn't care. Like,
here's what I'm thinking. This is my theory that she did go out to meet. She took that $600 out of the ATM, right? Because she had been saving up her money and trying to get her daughters back and get her life together. So she took the money she had out of the ATM and was maybe trying to negotiate, like, here, I'll give you this money, cover whatever, you've been doing for my daughter, whatever. Just give me my child.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I feel like they met up somewhere, probably at that restaurant or somewhere nearby, and there was some kind of altercation and something, like maybe Arianna was not there like she was supposed to be,
Mhm.
or whatever the situation was. I feel like she was being extorted or blackmailed or whatever, I don't know. And the exchange didn't happen, and instead she ended up dead, and they disappeared with this girl. That's my theory. I don't know if y'all thinking something different.
I mean, that seems the most well, I don't know if I say reasonable because that seems callous, but that seems like the simplest explanation.
Yeah, I don't know. Nikki, what you think?
With there being $120 in reward money on the line, they don't offer that for nothing.
Right.
Mhm.
And they have continuously questioned the girl, the Helena.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody knows something, because these three people, Ciolo, Helena, and Lemasani, are too closely related, regardless of whether they fall out, or like when they told Nicole, well, we don't really get along with her. I don't want to hear that, because at the end of the day, you're still family.
Mhm.
Right.
So whatever is going on with these people, they're too closely related for all of them to know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Somebody knows something, because if you had the girl in your custody for all of this time, she does not magically disappear from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mom is suddenly found dead.
Mhm.
They know something, and I believe that she is alive, and she's adorable. She's just a
So
Mm-hmm.
cute little,
cute.
she's a doll baby. So I really feel like these people latched onto her. They loved her, and I'm not saying that that makes it okay. But there are people who kidnap children that they suddenly love. Like,
Mhm.
I love this baby, so I got to keep it now.
That
Yeah.
happened with Kamaya Mobley, where
That
Mhm.
happened with
her mom took her
Kamaya
and raised her well.
Mhm.
loved her. So now Kamaya Mobley doesn't see her mother or her kidnapper, her captor. She doesn't see her as a villain, because she loves her and she was good to her.
Mhm.
So I think if this family took Ariana away from her mother and killed her, it was because they wanted to keep her for herself. And they knew Nicole is about to cut us off, and we don't want that. We want to keep Ariana with us because she's ours.
Mhm.
Hmm. Hmm. No, I definitely think that's interesting, but I think what bothers me is, like, how do people just disappear off the face? I mean, I guess people change their identity all the time,
Mhm.
and Ariana will never remember her mother
Right.
Because
or her
she was
family.
two.
She
Right.
was only two,
And
and
then
she's just not going to remember anything other than these people.
right. And then her being two, it also makes it difficult for bystanders to spot her as she gets older because
Yeah.
kids' faces change
They
so
change so
drastically.
much. That's why they have to get passports every 5 years,
Mhm.
because their faces change so much, that it's such rapid growth. So, you know, she's what, 6 now? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like 6, probably going on 7. She's
Mhm.
gonna look
Oh,
totally different,
yeah.
Yeah.
maybe some of the same features, but she's gonna look very, very, very different.
Mhm.
So, this case just really kind of tripped me up a little bit. And if you know anything, definitely check out our website and stuff. But if you know anything, please contact the San Francisco Police Department and Oakland as well. Like, they were in Oakland. So this girl, she may have been around in Oakland as well.
Mhm.
Looking at Santa Cruz, any of that in that whole area, definitely keep your eyes peeled.
Mhm.
Whew.
Black Girl
Oh, it is
Missing
on me, ain't it?
podcast is
I'm
research.
sorry.
Stop, 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 stop.
It was on me. You know what I was thinking of? That we're doing intros and outros, but that's for season 2,
Two.
not season 1.
Hmm.
My bad, and it is on me. Okay, we can cut that part out.
Okay.
Black Girl Missing podcast is researched, written, and produced by us. It is a labor of love by three concerned Black women who want justice for missing Black girls. Today's episode was written by FJ and produced by the Full Service Radio team. Find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media. At Twitter, we are at Black Girl Missing, BLK Girl Missing. Facebook, it's Black Girl Missing Pod, and Instagram, Black Girl Missing Podcast. Visit our website for more information about each case, blackgirlmissingpod.com. Email us at blackgirlmissingpodcast@gmail.com with any tips, feedback, or names of girls you want us to look into.